Hello.
Yeah.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Uh,
All right, cool. I'm gonna share my screen with you. Can you see me moving my mouse around?
yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so before we start, I just want to let you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record this session, and then I'm gonna put it on YouTube so you can watch it again, so you don't have to take any notes if you don't want to, and then I can make it private if you don't want anyone to see it. No problem. If you have any issues with that, let me know. But I just wanted to start with your OPGG, and just kind of first I want to go through kind of what you're looking to do in the session. I know you said you wanted to get better, but do you have like any goals in mind? Like you just want to climb or just get better in general?
I really just want to get better in general.
Okay, cool. All right, so I see you're bronze 3, and you ended last season in bronze as well.
Yeah.
And you typically play support or top,
Yeah.
and then it looks like you fill every now and again. Play some Tristana, Warwick, Heimerdinger last season at least. Okay. All right, so I'll just go over some like kind of general stuff today. We won't go over like top lane or support specific, but I'll try and make it more support based because it looks like you're like a Nautilus main. And Nautilus is in a really good spot right now. Like he's probably one of the strongest supports in the game, I think. So it's good that you're definitely maining him. But it looks like from last season, from what I can see from your OPGG, you've got a negative win rate on every other champ that you played, except for Aurelia. And kind of one of the big things, like, Nautilus aside, so right now looking just at your KDAs, they look really good, and your win rate was really good on Nautilus. But your KDAs on the rest of your champs, the big thing I noticed from that is your death rate. One thing you can start focusing on when you play top lane, and even some of these supports like Blitzcrank, you've got 6.8 deaths, you've got 8 deaths on average with Fiora. Typically what you want to do is have between 4 and 6 as an average is your wheelhouse. If you're over 6 on an average for your death count, it's way too high. So you can see you've got 8, 6.8, 7, just under 6, just over 6, and just over 6. So you're kind of in that like red zone of a death count where it's hard to consistently win with any champ if you're dying over 6 times a game on average. So try and keep it between 6 and 4, and if you're below 4, that's like, ideal, right? So my suggestion would be when you're in game, especially playing like aggressive champs or even as a support player, is you just focus on trying to play safer and not go quite as ham. I know as like a tanky support, you got to be the front line a lot of the times, but just think about after you die in a game, think about why you died, right? Like just take a few seconds while you've got gray screen and just like, how did I die and why did I die, and was there a way to kind of to fix that, right? Is there a way to, was I just in the fight for too long? Did I get caught? Why did I get caught, right? Like sometimes it's hard in the game to just diagnose that. So what I like to tell people is if you can use like a replay source. I don't know if you have Replay GG or like OBS or anything to like record your games. Do you ever do that or?
Yeah. I repeat GG.
Okay. Well, it's helpful to rewatch a game that you've lost, or even won, and just kind of just fast forward to the times you died, and then just kind of watch it through. Like where were they positioning and how they enter, where were you positioning, how did you enter the fight, and then just see, like, break it down. And it's really easy if you do that consistently to just kind of look at, okay, look, I'm playing Nautilus, probably not Nautilus, let's use Blitzcrank as an example. My AD carry had 50% health, I had 100% health, their AD carry and their support were both full health, and I pulled, I QE'd their AD carry, right? Like what you're supposed to do with Blitzcrank, but he turned and killed my AD carry, I was at full health, I couldn't get away, I got killed too. What do you take away from that is, just don't pull, right? Like Blitzcrank, it's a very easy champ to outplay yourself, and pull, not when it's always just available, but you pull when a fight is favorable for you, right? So always be thinking with Blitzcrank, your main goal is to pull someone, but it's only supposed to pull them at the right time, right? If you're grouped as 5 and you can pull someone, perfect, even if you're at a sliver of health, because if you die for the enemy's jungler, it's a good trade-off, right? Because you're the support, they're the jungler, that's one of their damage sources. So just think about it like that. Just try and break it down like really like simply, and just try and break it down like logically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And like getting better at this game in general, in my opinion, is just it's really easy to do if you just take the time. Like it's not very like, you know, sexy to like talk about being like methodical about like getting better at the game, but like I promise, like any work you put in outside of playing is going to be worth it, right? Especially if you're kind of mid bronze. There's like so much you can learn from the game just by like just sitting down and thinking about it for a minute. That will get you better over time. Okay, like, and a lot of it's just common sense, you know, and a lot of things that you can look at and take away just really quickly. So like just looking at your OPGG, I can tell that you just die too much, right? And that's something that you could have done by just like, you know, sitting by yourself and opening. Do you ever use OPGG, by the way, this website?
Okay. I would probably use LOL skill more.
Okay, yeah, Lol Skill's okay. That's another resource. I prefer this just for a couple of reasons. So, not just for this, so I can see like your ranked stats pretty well. Like this gives you a really good breakdown of your ranked games, which is good, which Lol Skill gives as well. But on top of that, the statistics and ranking pages here are really helpful. So like, let me just show you what I mean. So after every new patch.
I lost the screen. I can't see the screen.
Oh, you lost it? Okay, here. Let me get you back. Okay, you back?
No.
No. What is happening? Okay. Back again?
Uh-uh.
Oh man, what is happening? All right. Let me call you back in just a second. All right, cool. Let's try that again. Right. Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so what I did was I just clicked on the statistics tab here on OPGG, and what it tells you is game stats by champion and game stats by tier. Like this is kind of helpful just to kind of see where NA is at. So you can see there's 200 players in Challenger, like there's supposed to be. There's 209 Master players, and you can kind of see like down in Bronze 3, there's 56,000 players in that tier, right? And most players are Bronze, some are Silver. So this is just kind of general stats on the game to see where players are at. Don't look at that as often. It's just kind of interesting to look at. But this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the statistics page, where after every patch, like some players are stronger than others, and it's hard to tell like right away who's better than who. So like what I would do is sort by win rate, and then go into bronze over the last week, right after the new patch came out, and then just see who's winning, like who's got a crazy win rate if anyone does, and then who's also played a lot of games. So you can see, just looking at this, Graves has 15,000 games played. Volibear's got 11 and Garen's got 11. So I would say for you, your priority bans in your games should be number 1 Graves, in my opinion, number 2 Garen, number 3 Volibear. So like, don't worry about the people in your games who like who ban out your Tom Kench and your Sorakas and all those like old OP bans, because they both got nerfed. You know, people are kind of behind the times. They don't take the time to look at stuff like this, and to some degree, maybe Mundo, if he gives you a lot of trouble, he's got a decent amount of games played. But I would say, like, you know, Galio's got a great win rate, but he doesn't get played often. So you're just trying to maximize your potential win rate, right? So people play Graves a lot. I would say he's probably a priority ban, and that's where this comes into play. It's really helpful, right? So like right now I'm climbing back up to platinum, so after the reset, so I go to this and I look and I say, okay, Graves in my games are a priority ban. And then the next is probably Zed, and probably even Janna. You know, Janna's just like a broken champ in my opinion. She's really good support. if played correctly, and it looks like a lot of people are playing it pretty correct. So anyway, this is a really good use of the website. And then the rankings page is also really good if you're trying to look for ways to build your champ up. So if you go to the Champion Masters ranking, and then you go, okay, like new patch, I don't know if like Nautilus has a different build path. So I'll just go and see, click on Nautilus. It gives you the top 50 Nautilus players in the country. Well, in the region, I should say. If my page will load. This is great. I swear this isn't a toaster. All right, so anyway, we can move on. But these two pages are actually huge, in my opinion. Champion GG. Do you ever use this page? Champion.gg?
No.
All right, so I'm going to, here, what I'll do is copy this. Let's go to Skype. All right, I threw that in the chat. Okay, so basically, if you're trying to play a new champion and you're trying to learn a new champ, if you want to know what this does is compiles everyone from platinum and above, and all of the games that they play. So there's 3.5 million games analyzed, and it tells you how did they build their masteries, most frequent masteries. What's the most frequent leveling order? So they max E first, then W, then Q on Nautilus. And then what's the most frequent core build? So I think if you're just starting out with a new champ, and then your most frequent summoners here, it gives you a really good idea of how to build him, and then how to skill him, and then it gives you some extra information if you want. Like if you really want to get nitty gritty, like win rate by game length. Basically, as the game gets longer, past 30 minutes, he's got a lower win rate, which means he's an early game champion, right? So he wants to win a game before 30 minutes, right? So this is a cool website to let you analyze that kind of stuff really quickly, right? So I'll link you to that one. Second one is Pro Builds. Have you seen this site before?
Yeah, I've seen this one.
All right, cool. Yeah, so this is just like the pros and how they've recently been playing and building their champs. So I think this will be a helpful tool for you too, especially if we go look at Nautilus. So you can see like the frequency the pros play, and they play them pretty often. And it's not just NA. This is like Mata, Looper, the kind of the Koreans, the Chinese, how do they play them? They get ahead of the meta, which is good, and it gives you another breakdown of kind of how, what are the most frequently built items. So obviously Sightstone is huge on them. Face of the Mountain's big, and obviously Vision Wards. Now in Bronze, Vision Wards unfortunately aren't a huge thing. And even if you do place them down, there's no guarantee that people will be looking at their mini-map, but that's a whole nother issue. But all right, so between these two sites, I think you should be able to get into any new champ and be able to play them with the right kind of pregame setup. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so I just want to get a couple of quick questions out of the way. How often do you get games in? How often do you play League?
Basically every day.
Okay, cool. Are you like in school? Do you have a job or?
I'm in school.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, sorry. Let's go back to this. All right. Cool. And what do you think are your biggest issues in League? Like, why do you think you're losing games right now?
Really, it's more late game. Like, I feel as though I really can't do as much of an impact later in the game.
Okay, now is that on like Nautilus only, or like every champ that you play?
Just every champ.
Okay, every champ. All right. Okay, so that's a common problem. So you think your laning phase is okay, but then once it transitions into the mid and late, you have more of an issue? Is that probably right? Okay. And that's a pretty common problem at kind of the lower tiers. It turns into like an ARAM, right? Like all the outer towers are down, and then everyone just groups mid and starts fighting, right? Until like someone wins a team fight, and then they win the game. Like that's obviously not the ideal strategy, but if people aren't kind of aware of the right strategies to play, they're going to kind of stall out in the mid to late game. So as a support, it's kind of your job, really. It's in solo queue. It's hard to say, but your job is to kind of be the quarterback of the team. You know, like you're warding a lot. You should have a good control of the map, and you should be thinking about where's the next objective to take, right? When you've got mid and top lane, and this is going to be specific to kind of the lower tier, like bronze, silver level, they're going to be kind of microing, right? Like you've got a mid laner who's focused here, a top laner who's focused here. Your jungler is probably literally focused on this camp, right? So, and your AD carry is focused on his lane. So, as you should also be focused on your lane and protecting your carry and making sure he's being able to farm safely, making sure you're looking at your mini-map at all times, keeping track of where their jungler is, and just seeing, okay, top lane's winning, right? Which means as soon as this tower goes down, what's the next play? You know, where do we go next? And having like a better, and we call that the macro game, the macro concept of like, okay, once we have one of the outer towers down on bot and top or even mid, the game should theoretically be over, right? Because as soon as you get that first tower down, that's when you should start trying to group up and take your advantage elsewhere, right? So like, think about it like this, where if you were to take if your top lane was able to take this tower first, right? Even if he left this lane and the top laner went back to base and then came up mid, if you left your AD carry by himself and you came mid as well, you'd have a 3-on-1 in mid lane. Even if you let the other guy take the top tower, right? You three can now take mid tower. So you've traded top for mid, right? And now you've got 2 towers down, they've got 1, right? Then you all group, you guys go for bot tower, right? You trade mid tower for bot tower, right? You can see how this kind of starts to snowball, where you've only got 2 tower downs, they've got all 3 towers down. So even if you go even for the rest of the game, it's over because you keep trading towers, and by the end of it, you know, you'll have the Nexus and they'll have the Nexus plus 1 tower, right? And it's theoretical. It never actually happens in practice that way, but if everyone, all else equal, that's kind of how you should think about the strategy. Because once you get the first tower down, then you put the other team on the back foot, and they're going to be playing reactively for the rest of the game. So if you can be the proactive one of, okay, let's group mid, let's take mid tower out, let's go get dragon, then let's go get the bottom tower. They're going to have to literally, okay, they're trying to take mid, let's everyone group to mid to defend it, or they're trying to take dragon, like let's defend it. So a lot of times they don't have time to even take this top tower. So they see our top laner trying grouping mid, so their top laner is going to try and group mid to help defend it, right? So at that time, you just get a slow push on the minion wave here, right? And then as they're trying to defend, your minions are slowly marching to this tower here. They gotta send one person to defend it. When they do that, you've got an open 5 versus 4, right? So this is all just like theoretical. Holy shit! What I just do? This is all theoretical, like kind of game knowledge stuff that like most people aren't gonna kind of know about at the lower tiers. So it's kind of on you or really anyone else in the game to recognize and start thinking about those kind of things, and then just pinging it. You know, be like the quarterback. Be like, hey, look, you know, we're all just kind of dicking around right now. Let's try and focus something together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever kind of think about that kind of stuff going through games at all?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's. All right, so runes and masteries, I think, are. I kind of want to talk about the before game setup. Like, I know you've got issues with like the mid to late game, but I just want to make sure that your fundamentals of like everything before 15 minutes is set up first. Because if that's a little bit shaky, it's going to be a tougher transition into the mid to late game. Like, I want to set you up so that you're going into mid to late game with a massive lead, so that it becomes just easier to win the game. Okay.
All right.
So. You know, a lot of this stuff you may already know. If you do, just go ahead and stop me and say, hey, look, I know this, let's move on. But I just want to, you know, I don't know how, like, what you know about the game, you know, but I just want to cover it just to make sure you know. So, first thing about your pre-game setup, like your runes and your masteries, is actually, you know what? Before I move on to that, I will say this. What I also noticed about your season 5 stats is not only that you had kind of a rough win rate. You have really great stats on Nautilus, right? But you have not so good stats here. What's keeping you from climbing is playing these other champs, right? So like, again, this is stalling out, but you had, I think it was around 40 different champs played in season 5. I think for you to get better at this game, it would be really helpful to just focus on, let's call it like 3 support champs and then 3 top lane champs, and then just spam those 6 champs in every situation and just get really, really good at that. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? I mean, like, if you were to literally just never play any other champ but Nautilus with this kind of win rate and this kind of KDA, you would literally be in like low gold by like next month. You know what I mean? Like, the reason you're not climbing is because you're losing on all these other champs. So instead of just spamming Nautilus and becoming a one trick, I would say, like, play Nautilus, play Blitzcrank, and then play, like, who's your third support that you think you'd be comfortable with?
Probably Thresh.
Okay, all right. So, in my opinion, Thresh is a really high skill cap based champ. He's really, really tough. He's kind of in the same league in supports as I would call like a Zed or a Lee Sin, where I don't suggest you pick up those kind of champs until you get into platinum or higher, because it's just not worth it. The way that you can utilize the Thresh to its like highest success rate, it's gonna take like a long time, and I don't know if your game knowledge is quite like, or mechanics are quite there yet. I haven't even seen you play, so maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just saying in general, like champs like Nautilus and Blitzcrank with really, really simple kits will get you, like, we want to get your fundamentals down first, right? We want to get you really good, and then once you get really good at the overall macro game, right, then you can start focusing on those high skill based champs. Like for me personally, I got to mid plat last year, and the only champ that I played was Teemo. Okay, like Teemo is the mechanically easiest champ in the game, right? I played most of my games with like this was all of season 5 for me. I played 5 champs, and I spammed Teemo, Morgana, Soraka for the majority of my games, right? And it was because Soraka and Morgana for support are so simple mechanically. It made me focus on playing the macro game, right? It made me think about, you know, what objectives to take next. I wasn't worried about, you know, QWER and trying to maximize my abilities and all that stuff, right? So my suggestion to you would be pick a few champs. Like for me, I did it a little bit too drilled down, where like this season is the same thing. I've only spammed these 3 champs, but I also have a Smurf account that I use to learn new champs and get better at them. So you can see, if you look at my season 5, I played a few more champs, right? Like my Morgana and Soraka this is where I kind of like, I played a lot more games on this account because this is kind of where I was trying new things and trying to learn. So like my Soraka, you can see had a 59% win rate, 3.31 KDA. And as soon as I got good at her, that's when I started playing around my main account. And then same, I started trying to play Blitzcrank. I started trying to play Annie. I started trying to play Braum just to see how I did with them, and if I liked their kits. But just slowly kind of, for you being low tier anyway, you probably don't need a Smurf. But I would say, you know, try out new champs and see how you feel with them. But then choose like 2 or 3 main champs that you want to just spam. So I would suggest, besides Blitzcrank, Nautilus, you know, give Soraka, give Morgana a shot, give Janna a shot. Janna's broken right now. And they're not tanky, but their utility is just completely OP in my opinion. So Braum is in a really good spot right now as well. So probably my suggestions for you would be that. So um, let's do this. All right. So for support, let's go Nautilus, Blitz. Let's do Morgana, Gianna. And then for top, what do you think your best top lane champ? Fiora?
Yeah.
Fiora, who else do you play top?
Fiora, Darius, Volibear.
Alright, so Darius, Volibear. Alright, cool. So stick to these champs, okay, for like the next 2 weeks or so, and just spam them as hard as you can. Because think about it this way, like, you know, games are what, 40 minutes long? They're pretty long games, and if you're spending time playing games like, you know, Heimerdinger and all these other champs that you just want to try out, but you're just kind of messing around with, like off meta, like Leona. Leona's a good one too. Can't spell Leona. Okay, so you know, Darius is always a good spot. He's a super strong champ at all points of the game. Fiora is obviously really good, but again, she's got sort of a more complicated kit, but it's also, if you can get good with her, that's fine. Volibear is really simple. I think I'm comfortable with you playing these top laner guys, but just think, you know, Volibear is a tank, right?
Right.
Darius just does tons of damage. Fiora does tons of damage. So you've got kind of a well-rounded mix here where you don't, I mean, these are all melee champs, which is fine. You don't have to balance it and play like a ranged champ like Jace or Teemo or anything like that. You can be fine just playing your standard melee top guys, but just make sure you understand why you play the champs and what their role in the game will be. Okay? So I kind of want to talk about like breaking down a champion in general. So when you're playing Fiora, Darius, Volibear, when you play Nautilus, Blitz, Morgana, Janna, Leona, you know, let's talk about Caitlyn for a second, right? Like, can you build Caitlyn AP?
No.
I mean, like, physically you can, right? Like, you can buy a death cap on Caitlyn, but like, it goes counter to her kit, right? Like, Riot made these champions for a reason, right? They made her kit scale with AD, so she's an AD carry and she's super long range. So you want to buy AD items because you get the most efficiency out of that champion, right? Same goes for like a Soraka, right? Like, you can play Soraka AD if you wanted to, but you'd be out of your mind and you'd just be messing around, right? So like, it's one of those things where each champion scales to specific abilities. So when you look at a champ, you want to break him down, kind of reverse engineer, break him down, and think about, okay, you know, why would I play this champ, right? So let's just go to Darius on Champion GG. Let's start breaking him down and think, okay, people are building, they're going through the resolve tree, they're using the Grasp of the Undying, they're building attack damage, armor, and magic resist. So you know this is an 80 base champ. He just does tons of damage, and a lot of the items, and he does such high base damage here that you can build a lot of defense. Deadman's Plate, Spirit Visage, Randuin's, and then you only need like a few offensive items, which is Black Cleaver, Sterex. So I think it kind of tells you, it gives you a good idea if you reverse engineer how you even want to play this champ, right? Like, that means he's going to be a tank, but he also does out a lot of damage, which means he's going to be a frontline champ, right? He's going to be at the front of the fights, putting out damage and absorbing a lot of damage at the same time, which allows your team to be freed up more, right? So think about it like this. Like, this is your, so this is Darius, right? Okay. And this is your champ's, like, auto range, or let's call it your Q range, your Spinny Axe range. And then you've got your AD carry, your support, your jungler, and your mid laner, right? And then you've got you've got their team, right? And this is a team fight, right? So if you're that damage dealing tank that Darius is supposed to be, you go into the fight head first. You start doing as much damage as you can to anyone you can, right? So to their top laner, to their support or jungle or whoever's their tank, and what that focus is that they have to focus you, right? Because you're putting up. Thank you so much. They're putting in damage to you, which means that they can't put damage onto the rest of these guys, right? Which means they can attack these guys as well for free, or they can even get to the back line for free, right? So if you were playing someone like Volibear, right? The difference there, you got to think about these kind of things, is if you're doing less damage but you're more tank. So your job is to go through their front line and try and get to their back line. And if they were dumb, which a lot of times they will be, they'll just be attacking you the whole time. And it's not just the front guys, it'll be the back guys too, right? Like, oh god, a Volibear's coming at me, let's all attack him, which means the rest of your team gets free damage while you tank everything, right? Now, if you're if they were smart and you're playing against players at a higher MMR bracket, it's even better because you get to the back line and they think, okay, he's too tanky, but he doesn't do any damage, so I don't even have to worry about the Volibear. I'm still going to try and attack their back line. I'm still going to try and attack whoever I can who's not Volibear. That allows you to just be free reign, right? That's free reign on these guys. You can toss this one back, get to their AD carry, toss them back in, blow them up in a second, and then just kind of like dominoes one by one, right? So you want to think about this kind of stuff in team fights. Like, what's the makeup of your team? Are you Volibear and you're the only tank, and the rest of these guys are squishies? You've got like, let's call it like a Yi jungle. You've got like a Caitlyn AD carry. You've got like a Teemo at top lane. I'm like, sure you're in top lane. You've got like a LeBlanc mid lane, and then your support is like a Janna or something. So like, super squishy team except for you. They're not going to be able to take any damage. Your team fight is going to be either peel for the squishy AD carry or mid lane, whoever's the most fed, or it's try and get to their back line and blow them up. If you've got a super tanky team and you've got like a Rek'Sai jungle, you've got like a Braum support, then like the three of you can be kind of like in the mix, and you can fight people from kind of the front to the back, right? So it all depends on what your team is and what your comp is. But again, like, these kind of things you just think about as the game, before the game starts and as the game goes on. Like, when you get into that ARAM mode of like, we're fighting 5v5 or 4v4, what's your job in each of these champs, right? Nautilus is going to be around the same as Volibear. Blitz will probably be a little bit different. Blitz isn't much of a tank. He's more of like your kind of float around the middle and then pull someone in, right?
Right.
And then blow them up and then move to the next one. So Blitz is a little bit kind of like, he's not like a standard tank or a standard support player. You got to kind of think about him a little bit differently, which can be a little bit different when you're just trying to like start playing this game and just trying to generally get better. So, but he's fine to play. He's really simple to play. And same goes for like a Morgana, right? Like a Morgana, your job is not to be in the front at all. Your job is to be backed by your AD carry. And you're looking again for picks as well. You're trying to bind someone, right? Once you've got your Zonias built, you can flash into the middle, hit R, and then hit Zonias, and you just see everybody scatter, right? And as they're scattering, that's when your team can pick off one or two of them, right?
Right.
Or if they're stupid and they stay in the center, then you get the stun, and then you can kill them anyway. So that's a huge, like, that's in my opinion, makes Morgana super strong. And Janna's kind of like the antithesis, right? So Janna's going to be again in the background, shielding people, using her nados. If they somehow, if there's positioning mistakes where they get in on your team, you just hit R, and instead of binding them like Morgana would, you kind of shoot them all back, right? And you got that heal. So this is turning into a total clusterfuck. But so I would say, again, like, just think about what champ you're playing and why. Leona, right? Leona's a hard engage support, so she's going to be on the front line, tanking tons of damage, trying to queue in, stunning one person, and literally just one by one killing everyone, right? So, again, these are just like really, really basic ways to think about your champ, but don't get into that mindset when you're in a 5v5 group of, I just like, you know, like when I first started playing this game, like I first started playing ranked like in August of last year, and I climbed really fast just by like using these like common sense tactics. Like, okay, what champ am I playing and where should I be? Like at the very beginning, like I would be playing Morgana, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm like a non-damage dealer, so I should be like right here, right? And I'd get killed like really, really fast every time, and we'd lose every team fight. And I'd be like, well, what the hell am I doing wrong here? And it was mostly because like we get into a team fight, and because I didn't really know about what all these other champs did, I would get killed really quickly because I wasn't aware of like their power or their abilities, and I just get like my mind would literally just go blank. Like it would just be like I'd be like out of body experience, just like just throwing out bindings and shielding random people and just kind of walking around until I died. Like, don't ever get into the mindset of I'm just gonna like throw out abilities and not think about it. Like, you want to have a plan for every situation, okay? And that sounds like super generic, but there's really no good way to explain that, right? It's just like know your champ and then know what your job is as your champ, and I promise you, you're gonna just do really well. No matter like that's the name of the game, right? It's just know your champ and then know what they can do. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know if I explained that like well enough, but that's like the best way I can think to even explain it, if that makes sense. Okay, so you cool with that?
Yeah.
All right, nice. All right, so let's move on to kind of your finishing up the before game setups. So one thing I do want to mention is like the reason I point these two sites out. You don't spend any time. I don't know if you spend a lot of time thinking about like, you know, what's better, tough skin or explorer, right? Like, are you min maxing your masteries or your runes much?
I try usually.
Okay, like in my opinion, okay, so for me personally, I got to mid plat so far. I think I can get to diamond pretty soon, pretty easily, and I've literally never thought about runes and masteries before, like to like a really high degree. It's literally just I go to a page like this, or I see a streamer that's really good, and I like his setup and I like his playstyle, and I literally just copy it. Just literally go into your runes and masteries for Darius, build this rune page, build this mastery page, and then completely forget about it. Because at bronze, at silver, at gold, at most of platinum, none of it matters, right? Like you're gonna get the around 100% efficiency with these two pages. Like, yeah, maybe in certain matchups, like having perseverance over insight would be better, right? Like sometimes you may not need the summoner cooldown of 15% and you might need the health regen. Like say you're Soraka, like the health regen is going to be better than the cooldown of summoner spells in some situations. But sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes they don't have like a really good hard engage comp and they're never going to get to you, so you don't need the health regen, and having the ability to heal faster is better, right? So my point is that like those little things at your level, they just don't matter, right? Like just build the standard build and then just totally forget about it. And what that's going to allow you to do is focus more on other parts of the game. It just allows you to not waste time, okay? And that's kind of like my biggest fear in the game is like, oh god, like I'm spending so much time like on this crap that I don't really need to be doing. I could be focusing on my mid to late game and shoring up like and plugging the leaks in that part of the game. And itemizing your builds is a little bit different. Like, yeah, this is the most frequent core build, but again, it's not going to be kind of the best build in every single situation, right? If they've got like how do you typically think about building your champ? Do you kind of build it based on the enemy team, or is it just kind of like a standard build every time?
It's usually more based around the enemy team because I usually always have to. I'm either on something bruiser-ish or tank, so it is usually based around the enemy's team. If I'm playing Fiora or something, it's the same beginning items,
Yep.
Having a sniper blade cleaver, probably a spirit soldier for someone EP or a dead man.
Okay. And yeah, that's fine because I'm sure you probably start Doran's, right? Or you start corrupting potion maybe.
I usually start longsword actually.
Oh, longsword. Okay. I would say Doran's blade is probably better than longsword in most situations, only because you get not only the AD that you like, probably a little bit less AD than you get from a longsword, but I think you get the sustain from the lifesteal. So if you get into a trade that's unfavorable and you lose a trade, all you have to do is attack a few minions to get some of that health back. Whereas with a longsword, you're totally focused on your pots, and as soon as you're out of your pots, you got it back, right?
Right.
So does that make sense? Like I think the trade-off of a little bit less damage but a little bit more sustain in the lane tends to be a little bit better of a start, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And a lot of times, like some people, when they get ahead, they'll buy two Doran's blades on their first back instead of building towards a core item, because that allows you to kill your laner faster because you've got more sustain and more damage, and it's really good up front in the first like 3 or 4 levels. So that's stuff that like that's a lot of like really specific detaily stuff that I don't want to really get into because it's kind of like at this point I want to make sure your overall macro stuff is right before we get into like the what's specific and specific circumstances. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, but yeah, my point is that like this is good to know like for at the end of the game what you want to build towards. But a big point is like, okay, so Hydra is probably like the first really core item that you build on her, right? You get your boots, you get your Hydra, and then you start to build into other things. But say you're playing against a Swain, say you're playing against a Rise in the top lane, and you get killed really quickly, and you're down 0-1, right? And he's got a kill, he's going to have more CS than you, he might have a level advantage. Then in that situation, obviously going Hydra first is a terrible idea, right? Because you're building damage into someone who's out damaging you and you're behind, right? And just going back to like the example we were talking about on Summoner's Rift, where we take this tower first, right? And then we rotate to mid and take that tower, rotate here, and they're slowly losing this battle because we've taken 3 and they've taken 2 and the game's over. The same idea will apply with itemization. So if you're now behind, 1 tower behind because you got killed first and you're behind, so your job when behind is to start building defense first. So go back to lane with a null magic mantle, go into your Spectre's Cowl, then once you've gotten a better handle on the lane and you feel like you're not going to get blown up by him, then you can start building a little bit more of your, like maybe go into your Tiamat, and then go back to building your Spirit Visage, right? So start thinking about, what's going on with my matchup in lane. Am I ahead? If I'm ahead in lane, absolutely go damage and snowball. If I'm behind, go defense. That's your general thought process, okay? So when you're playing games from here on out, start thinking in that way, okay?
All right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Do you have any questions so far about anything we've talked about? I haven't really.
No.
Okay. And then same, like, support's a little bit easier, right? Like, it's pretty much all going to be defense. But the difference between support is going to be, like, what order you build stuff in, which is really important, right? So you've got the Locket, and then you've got Dead Man's Plate. And what's the difference there, right? Like, where's the Dead Man's Plate? Yeah, there it was. Okay, so Dead Man's Plate's 500 health, 50 armor, right? Where are you, Locket? There it is. Locket is 400 health, health regen, magic resist, and CDR. So totally 2 different defensive items, right? Now, if you're in the first, say, 10 to 12 levels of the game, and you're just against their 80 carry, it might make sense. Oh, let's build a whole bunch of armor so that their 80 carry can never kill me. But that's like really short-sighted, right? Because if they've got a Malzahar mid and a Ryze top, and they've got like a Diana jungle, that's 3 heavy AP champs, and their AD carry is going to be the only one who's doling out physical damage, which means rushing a dead man's plate is really, really inefficient because you're defending against one of their champs when they've got 3 damage dealers who are doing pretty much free damage to you. So count how many AP champs they have and count how many AD champs they have, and try and weigh in, okay, should I go MR or should I go armor first, right? If they've got 2 AP champs or more, always start Locket, okay? Because you want that magic resist, because it gives you the health that'll help with the AD as well, but you get that Aegis, which will be good for your whole team, okay? And then that'll help scale into the late game for your team. And then you can build armor depending on like if you've done well as a support and you've shut down their AD carry and they don't have any damage and you're up against an AP team, start Locket for your team so you can have your AoE shield and you can also have like the Aegis to help everyone, and then go into Spirit Visage and then make your Dead Man's Plate your 3rd item, right? Or like a Thorn Mail or something, right? Or a Frozen Heart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And these kind of little things actually are like really important to know, because if you build a Frozen Heart first, that means it's going to take another 5 to 10 minutes of the game till you have enough money, because you're a support, you're not going to get a lot of money. So it's really important the order in which you build things. So you can see things like Special in this game. He built a Frozen Heart. He built this, so he's building both defenses here. This guy, Issa, he only built a Spirit Visage, which tells me as a support player, I don't know if we can click on this and see what game. Yeah, so you can see, let's see who he was up against. He was up against the Kazakhs. He was up against a Corki, who does magic damage. And he was up against an Alistar, who also does magic damage, right? So he was probably thinking, we're getting ganked quite a bit by this Kazakhs, where this Corki does quite a bit of magic damage. So I think if we go Spirit Visage against these 2 players, it kind of nullifies. So any ganks that come while I'm in lane, I'm going to be totally fine with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So that's another way, like, to kind of use this as what's also cool about this is if you click on him, you can see exactly the build path that he used. He started Flask, and then he built into his Glacial Shroud first, and then went into his Iceborne. You can just see kind of, this is his first buyback. He got armor, he got mana, and he got a pink ward. Second buyback, third buy, fourth buy, like that. So if you're ever curious and etc. So I think that should cover your kind of general itemization choices. Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. And then let's go into a game real quick. I kind of want to... Do you have like a hard stop time? Do you have a time where you have to go anytime soon?
No.
Okay. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into a custom game real quick. All right, let's start us up. Let's do Morgana. Okay. So what I'm about to kind of go into is your hotkeys, okay? How your keyboard and your mouse are set up. And I just want to make sure that you're using things as efficiently as possible. And I want to get you into a setup where you can literally set it up one time, just like we're going to do with your runes and masteries, and then just totally forget about it and never have to think about it again, okay? And I'm going to save you like fractions and full seconds in a game that are going to be like really useful. Like saving you, like, so how long does it take you to recall, right? Like sometimes, you know, if I'm in the middle of a team fight and I'm over here and I like run away and I need to recall really quickly, it might take me half a second for me to stop, look at my keyboard, and then hit the B key,
Right.
But if you were to rebind your recall from B to another button that's a little bit easier to get to without looking to your keyboard, it might save you like 0.2 of a second or 0.3 of a second, and that might sound like a little bit of time, but
Right.
it actually is a huge difference, and it actually does add, like, in the grand scheme, in the long run, it'll add up to a lot, right? It'll get you to the fight fast, get you back to the fight faster. It can let you TP into things faster. You know what I mean? So I want to optimize your keystrokes so that you can be as quick and as efficient as possible. All right, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first thing I want to get into is your when you first start into a game. All right, so your procedure. Like when you first spawn into the fountain, the first thing you do is you open up your shop, you buy what you want to buy, okay? And then you've got 15 seconds until the barrier opens, so just kind of wait, click as fast as you can, so as soon as you get out of the base, you're going to go to where you want to go. My first click as a support is this brush here, and I've got, let's call it 20 seconds until my champ can run from here to the brush. In that time, line up your champs. Do you do this every game?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you got top, jungle, mid, AD carry, support.
Yeah.
All right. So it's good you're doing that already, but a helpful reason that you do that is for your F keys. Do you use your F keys, F1, F2, F3, F4?
No.
Okay, so what F keys allows you to do is, this is F1, this is F2, this is F3, this is F4, right? And then this would be you as a support. And then if you were top lane, it would just shift down. So F1, F2, F3, F4. Okay? So what that allows you to do is, again, we're just talking efficiency. So if I wanted to see what was happening in the mid lane, say there was a fight breaking out, 2v2 or something, like jungler and mid versus jungler and mid, I would have to like click here, center it. Like this is really inefficient, right? It's like, and then you'd have to like hit spacebar to come back to you. If you were to just hit F2, it would jump you right to the champ. And then you can hit spacebar. So just like F2 spacebar, F2 spacebar, F2 spacebar, right? So that is a lot more efficient, and it saves you about a half a second. And especially when you're like in lane and you're trading and you're CSing and helping your AD carry out, you may not have time, but there might be a fight breaking out that you need to be aware of. So you'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna hit F2, see what's going on, and then back. And if it's like something that's like a build up where, let's say the top tower's down on both of our teams and there's a fight that's happening and their support has left lane and their support's mid lane and it's you and your AD carry against their AD carry, you need to go help mid. Okay, you can't be in lane. So this is another kind of a point that a little bit off topic, but I do want to mention it, is that when you see their support start to roam throughout the map and try and affect other lanes, you either have to go match that support and help out whoever they're trying to attack, and you have to decide, okay, do I have time to get from where I'm at to where he is? Like if he's mid lane, it's easier than if he was up here by like the Rift Herald. And if they're up by Rift Herald or top lane, then you need to realize, okay, now we've got a 2v1 here in bot lane. So you want to shove your wave into the tower just like we just did here, and you want to, I'm about to hit my tower, and you need to dive their AD carry. And you need to pressure their AD carry and zone their AD carry. Make sure that their AD carry is completely useless while their support is gone. Okay, does that make sense? And that's kind of an advanced concept, by the way. That's like something that really high elo players do, and that's like recognizing that they've got an imbalance now. We've got 2v1. Their support is left lane, and we have to punish that somehow. That's either by helping defend or by just shoving in as hard as you can and taking this tower. Because their AD carry, even if they're fed, can't defend against two people, especially one with CC. Okay, so that aside, the F keys is really helpful to be able to jump to someone, and getting used to using those, like, I don't know how big your hands are, but like, you got to take your fingers kind of a little bit off of the keyboard, like a little bit off of the WER keys to be able to hit F1, 2, and 3, which can be awkward at first, but just get used to it, because I'm telling you, like, being able to get used to that is going to it doesn't seem like it, but it really will improve your game. I promise you. Being able to just look around the map really quickly without having to like move your like right now I'm just trying to move around and like stay away. Like same against a blitzcrank, like I don't want to be positioned anywhere near that blitzcrank, right? Like where he can hook me. So I'm gonna be constantly moving around, but people in the game aren't gonna be waiting for like me to be in a good position for like a fight to break out. So if I'm over here and blitzcrank's over here, it gives me like a really good opportunity to quickly F key away. Like I'm way out of hook range. I'm standing here, still supporting my 80 carries over here, and I can quickly hit F1, see what's happening top, spacebar. It's literally that quick. Just go up here and back, go up here and back. See, like, what information did I get by just doing that? Like, F1 back. What information did you just get from that? Can you tell me anything? What do you think I just got from that?
You can see, like, who's there, who's pushing, if the jungler's coming, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's all you're looking for. Like I look at this and back, and that not something that I can typically see from just the mini map, just by looking at the mini map. Like I'm looking right now. I think I'm dying. I look at it right now. Look at the mini map. Can you really tell, like if this minion wave's pushing? No, you have to look. You see a massive minion wave, so you can tell top lane's pushing, and that means that. The minions waves are going to be stuck here at the turret for like at least a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, which means both top laners will be here, which means it's easily gankable, which means they're, and say our minions are here, we're not as gankable, and say mid's still here in the middle. Just by seeing that, and then again, like we see the minion wave crashing here, but we don't know which way it's pushing. A quick F1 will tell you. You can see we've got 6 minions, they've got around 10, so it's pushing back. So my point is you can get a good idea of a lot of things with literally that amount of time. That was like a quarter of a second, and you just got tons of information. The jungler is not coming bot because we had our minion wave here, less likely to mid because it's in the middle, very likely to be top. And as soon as you see that jungler go top, you can know that you're safe here in the bot lane for at least a minute. Does that make sense?
Right.
So again, set up these in the right order, which allows you to hit the F1, F2, F3, F4 key and be able to jump to someone, whoever you want to see, quickly, would be my first tip. Secondly, what kind of mouse do you use? Do you have a mouse that just has a left and right click, or does it have like side buttons and stuff?
I have a cyber mouse.
Okay. How many side buttons does it have?
It has 2 side buttons and 1 right off of my left foot.
Okay. And is it like a front and a back side button?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Perfect. So I'll give you my setup. And by the way, all the stuff I'm about to tell you is like very like it's very player dependent. Like it's whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how my situation is set up, and how I think it's the most optimal and why, and then you can either set it up that way or not. But it's just like a suggestion for you to think about. Like I highly suggest you set it up so that it's optimizing the way that your hands work and that you're like really comfortable with. But again, when I set this up. It really revolutionized kind of the way my game is. So I'll explain it now. So the 2 side buttons on my mouse, I've got my left and my right click. I've got the back button on the side mouse, on the side of my mouse, the back button. I made that my recall. Okay? So I don't have to move my left hand off the keyboard. I can literally just hit side button. And it makes it super easy, super efficient, right? And so you go into your hotkeys, you go into abilities and summoner spells, and you scroll down to, oh no, it's not here, is it? Oh yeah, here it is, teleport home. Mouse button 4, right? That's my back mouse click, okay? And that's literally you just click on it, and then you go mouse button 4, okay? Second thing is the front mouse click on the side. I made that self-cast. You can see self-cast, spell 1, 2, 3, and 4. Since Morgana is my main support champ, I made Black Shield my mouse button 5 for spellcast. So when I'm in lane and I'm moving around and I see a Blitzcrank in this bush here, or maybe I don't even know he's there, and all of a sudden I see the hook come out, I can still be clicking away, and I just hit my mouse button on the side. You see that? I didn't hit. I don't have to move my cursor onto myself, which is like little like awkward because like I have to be faster than the hook is, which is a fast animation to begin with. I'm clicking over here. I have to be quicker to hit E here than while I'm running away. So just something to think about. If you've got any single spell on like a Nautilus or anything that's a self cast, or something that you want to cast really quickly, I would suggest casting it to your mouse button, the front mouse click. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's a cool little tip that I figured out that I don't think a lot of people do. So that's it really for your mouse. And it allows you to never move your hand off the keyboard too, so you can throw out other spells if you want to, while also just doing that. So that, I think it's helpful. Secondly, and more importantly, is your communication. So do you have all of your spells on Q, W, E, and R?
Yes.
And do you have all of your items on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
No.
Okay.
I have. Well, one, I changed my D to T.
Okay.
So my summoner instead of D is T.
Okay.
And my trinket, I have it on D. So I moved all the numbers down one. And what you have 7 would be my forward mouse button.
Oh, okay. So 7 is your forward mouse now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And your trinkets in D, and your D summoner spell is in T, but your F key is still normal.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. That's fine. I mean, that's not bad at all. What I will say is, what I think is the most efficient and optimal is having every single communication, spell, item, everything as close to the Q, W, E, and R key as possible. Okay?
Right.
That way you never have to take your hands off, so if you're in the middle of a fight and you need to do something, it's not ever going to affect. And these are things obviously you want to do as early as possible when you're learning the game so that you don't...
Get used to it out of the way.
Exactly. So, all right. So the way I have it set up is D and F, as you can see, are normal. My itemizations are normal. My trinket's still on 4 because I've got a pretty long middle finger. So throwing out a trinket for me is literally just extending my middle finger from E, and it's really easy to do. But if you're used to it in T and D, that's totally fine. But the reason I kept it that way and kept it standard was I wanted my, if you look at your keyboard, my T, my G, my V, my C, those 4 keys to be my main communication tools. Okay? So what are your main communication tools, especially for you now going forward, since you're going to be this really good shot caller, is first is pinging targets, right? So this right here, right? So defend this tower. Let's take this tower down. Come over here. Oh wait, they're not letting me ping anymore. Come over here. That's my T key. And for you, that's the most commonly used one that I use, so that's why I wanted it so close. My G key is the get the hell out of there, back up. And that's like my index finger from R. I don't have to look at my keyboard to do that. My V key, that's where I'm going. Okay, go to the mini map. I'm going to blue. Help me out. Right? I'm going to dragon. Help me out. And again, that's something I can just drop my index finger down from R to V and just do that really quickly. But since it's a little bit of a strain, try and keep your pinky on Q, your third finger on W, your middle finger on E, and then move just your index finger down to V. It's a little bit awkward, but the reason I put I'm coming over there on the V key because it's a little awkward, that means I'm really never going to be team fighting and need to use that, right? If I'm team fighting, I'm going to need to tell people to back off. If I'm team fighting, I'm going to need to tell people, okay, target this person, right? So that is easy. I don't have to look away. But I have to kind of look away to hit the walking away, and I'm never going to do that in a team fight. And that's why it's a little further away from the other ones. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. And then lastly, the C key, I bound that to the shop. So again, I don't have to look away from, so like I'm running into this bush to recall. I hit recall, immediately open up my shop. It saves me about a half a second looking at my keyboard and going over to the P key and hitting P. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can already know, okay, what do I want to buy, what do I want to buy. Obviously, the first thing when you back, walk to the edge of the fountain. Do this every time,
Right.
get into this habit. And then, you'll already have your shop open. But as soon as you back, close the shop, walk to the edge, reopen it, and then just buy, whatever you're trying to buy. And C key, and then move to lane, right? So effectively, I've got all of my communication, I've got my shop and my back key all within reach to where I never have to move my hand off of the keyboard or the mouse. All right?
Alright.
So those are just suggestions. Take whatever you will from that, and hopefully that'll make you a little bit more efficient, okay? Oh, I just chose the wrong one. Okay. So through all of that, I think that we've got your before game setup completely. I know we've been talking for an hour, but I just wanted to make sure. Did you kind of get anything new out of that? Did you learn something
Yeah.
for the first hour? Okay, good. Just want to make sure that those fundamentals are in order, because I know they seem like small stuff, but getting into those good habits early is going to really take you to the next level. So that's kind of all you need to know, in my opinion, to get to at least platinum from the before game setup perspective. Okay. Now let's kind of shift into talking about the getting into the game and the first 10 minutes of the game. Okay. And that's going to be, think about your loading screen. When you see all 5 champs row by row, when you're in the loading screen is when you start to think about, okay, who am I playing? And like what we talked about before, who am I laning against specifically? And then what is my win condition? How do I win this lane? How do I win this game? What am I going to do during team fights? Do they have a good team fighting comp? How much CC do they have? All of those things you need to start thinking about before the game begins. Okay? Do you do that now?
Not as much as I should. I usually go in game.
Okay. And that is considered kind of dead time, right? We're all loading. No one's really doing anything. You could use that time efficiently to just think about the game. Okay. Sometimes it's simple, right? I just played a game before we started this session as Morgana support. Please don't shit your pants. Okay, so I'll show you the game. All right, so in loading screen, I'm thinking about this. I'm with Ashe, and I'm Morgana. Ashe's ult is a stun that roots you for that stuns you for a second and a half, depending on the distance it travels. And then I've got a snare, right, that also binds and stays somewhere. So if Ashe can get an arrow off on the AD carry, I can freely bind them and then ult them. So they're going to be essentially rooted for 6 straight seconds, doing no damage, and we can win this lane very easily after level 6. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about. Is okay. I either got to get a binding first, or she's got to get an arrow off first, and we've got free kills for every single time.
Right.
And I've got a black shield, so if they try and CC her back, she's completely protected. So Morgana Ashe is a really strong lane for that reason, right? Then I think about Brand. Brand's got a stun as well. Wukong's got his knock-up, and then Elise has got a stun. So with our team, we've got amazing team fight, right? Really good team fight. We've got Initiate from Ashe. We've got Initiate from Elise. We've got Initiate from me. We've got Initiate from Wukong. And we've got follow-up on everybody. This is a great team comp. Their team comp, Draven, Lee Sin, Riven, Victor, Blitzcrank. They don't have any CC. They've got a pull. They've got Victor's gravity field. And they've got Riven's stun, which needs to be right next to us to get to. Other than that, there's no CC. So I'm thinking in the game, we need a team fight as soon as possible. Because we can level 1 team fight and annihilate them, right? We can level 10 team fight and annihilate them. So our job is to knock down a tower as soon as possible and then group as 5 and win the game. No matter if we're winning or losing at any point, if we group up, our CC alone will win us the game. So they've lost in Champ Select. When you hear people say that, we lost in Champ Select, it's possible to lose in Champ Select if you're all on the same page, right? So the first thing I did when the game started was I typed into chat, team fight as soon as possible, take down tower as soon as possible, and GG, right? Just so I can get that in everyone's mind. So if no one else on my team was thinking about it like I was, now they are, because I told them, right? Like, and the whole team was on board from that point forward because they realized, you're right, they don't have any CC, we've got all the CC, this game is going to be a complete shit stomp, and it was. So just thinking about these kind of things at the beginning of the game will get you into a habit of just completely destroying. Like, this was a gold 4 game, but some of these guys are, gold 5, gold 3, so on. So this is like a low gold game. And you can tell that a lot of these guys didn't think about this even before the game started. And they picked all these solo queue style champs where they thought, I'm just going to snowball my lead into my lane into a win. But they don't realize that sometimes it just, if you all think alone, you're good. It doesn't necessarily mean like picking a champ because you're good at it only is a bad thing. Like, they just got to realize their weakness, which is team fight, and never fucking group ever. And they need to always split push, or they always need to make sure that they're slowing down our fights and just try and defend us for a tower and then send one that we need that we would have to then deal with. So there is a way to counteract our team comp, right? But if we group as 5, it's going to be really tough. They got to be really well organized, and it just kind of adds another wrinkle. And these are things that you just got to just get into the habit of thinking about before the game begins. And that's loading screen, in my opinion. All right? All right, so that's loading screen. So when you get into the game, obviously buy your items, you run to your lane, and then you start. You kind of start the general before your 15-minute laning phase, right? As support, obviously your job is to just get your ADC fed, but I just want to talk about now, just in general, just the flow of a game. Okay, now the general concept of League of Legends is obviously kill the Nexus, right? That's your job. Right. And the biggest the best way to do it, in my opinion, in a solo queue is to get ahead in your lane and snowball. Okay, this is ideal situation now. Is get ahead in your lane, snowball, take your tower down first, go roam, and then take every other tower. Okay, this is like ideal scenario time. Okay, you've gotten 2 kills on your laner. You're 2 levels above. You've got 50 more CS. He's got to stay back in lane, freeze, and try and catch up. And while he's trying to catch up, you're winning the game.
All right.
All right. Very, 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 very simple. Okay. Now, what happens if you're the one who gets shit on? Okay. Well, same type of scenario exists, only now it's reversed, right? So they take your tower down, and now you're the one who's trying to farm up and catch back up to their top laner while his top laner might be wreaking havoc on the rest of your map. So your job is to try and stop the bleeding. Okay, your job isn't to like match his damage or try and come like the problem is if you try and come help, like you're still not as strong as the top laner. So even if it's an even fight, they're going to come out ahead because their top laner is stronger. You know what I mean? So what you need to do is just make sure that the rest of your team is fed, okay? And if you lose top lane, that you do your best to make sure that your mid and your bot are winning. Because if you lose lane, it's fine as long as you've won another 2 lanes, right? To win a game of League of Legends, you only need two lanes to win for sure, but really, you only need 1 lane to win in most situations. But if you've got 2 other lanes winning and you're losing, it's totally fine. And how do you do that? Is if you're losing and you've lost your tower and you're just getting shit stomped, tell your jungler to never come top. If you're down 2 kills, you're 0-2, and the enemy's got 2-0, you're basically, and you're like a level behind, and you're 40 CS behind. He's got an item and a half, and you've got half of an item. It's really dangerous for your jungler to come top because he can 2v1 you at that point. And if he kills your jungler and you, that could shut the entire game down, right? So at this point, think about it like this. It's too dangerous for your jungler to come top. Literally type into your chat, jungle, never come top, and snowball mid, snowball bot. Just have your jungler camp this over and over and over and over and over, right? Just surrender. Surrender top forever. And just think, okay, I'm going to, well, that sounds really dramatic, but surrender top tower. I'll rephrase that. Surrender top tower. If you're getting shit stomped, you should never ever go back really into lane to where you could ever get to 0-3. Okay? If you've made like some really bad mistakes and you're 0-2, 0-3 is not acceptable. Okay? You should recognize that you're behind enough that let them kill the tower and then start to free farm over here. Okay? So that you're safe, and if they try and be really cute and they're like, I'm super strong, I'm just going to overextend and try and farm and kill them, that's when you can bring mid laner, that's when you can bring jungler. That's when, no matter how fed this person is, they're going to die, right? So you want to set the situation up where it's favorable in your situation, and that's being behind. So as you're behind, the only way you can win is if you get help, and just jungler is too dangerous. So you need to set up a situation where the enemy can outplay themselves. They overextend, and then they can get dove by 2 people instead of 1. It's a guaranteed kill, and then you can start to hard shove back to their tower, try and take the tower down. And as soon as their tower goes down, then we're all even, right? Does that make sense? Kind of the flow of that. Okay, so that's your general when you're ahead and when you're behind tactics. Stop the bleeding, okay? Stop dying when you get behind, and then tell your jungler to just go away and snowball all the other lanes. And if you're ahead, take the tower, and then you're in that spot where you can start to affect other lanes, right? As soon as you take the tower down and he's doing his thing, don't make that mistake of trying to stay there, without being super well warded, right? Like, you want to have wards where people, from like a really long ways away that people are coming for you. You know what I mean? And that's like if you're a split pusher like Tryndamere or whoever, like Teemo. So in that situation, you're not going to want to be going this route. You're going to want to be going, base to mid, base to bot, base to free dragon, right? And in that time that you're hopefully doing some objective and getting it done, you'll be able to do that. He'll have shoved the wave back to around here, right, where your tower is, and then you could be back, to defend it. Get the free farm, shove the wave back to here, and then rinse and repeat. Get it? So I know I'm kind of giving you a lot here, but that's why I'm recording it, and that's why you can kind of go back and rewatch if you want. But okay, but those are your general strategies for top lane. Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. All right. And do you find yourself in one of those two situations pretty frequently?
For the most part, I really don't. If I go top, I usually don't lose lane.
Okay.
So I am more in the state of trying to get other lanes fed after I take a tower or something. But yeah, I find more problem helping the other lane.
All right. Well, yeah, perfect. So let's talk a little bit more about that then. You get this tower down, okay? And by the way, I just want to make sure you're clear. That's you. You're let's call it your Fiora. And then this is me on red side. All right. So you've taken my tower, my top tower, and you've put me in the unfavorable situation of having to farm right here. Now, how do you decide? Okay, now you've gotten the tower, you've backed, you've shoved the wave, and now you're back in base buying your items, and now you've got to decide where you want to go and what you want to do. What's your typical decision process?
Typically, 9 times out of 10, I try to my best to push down mid.
Okay, and why? Why do you do that?
To try to get the mid tower as quick as possible.
Well, like,
Really.
strategically, like, what does that help you do you think?
More mat pressure and control overall.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a trick question or anything. I just wanted
Right.
to make sure you understood it because, like, you know, obviously, the more towers you take down, what does that do ultimately? Is it cuts vision, right? Right now, their vision is this, right? That's their vision line because you've taken their top tower. So Baron's kind of outside of their vision control, really, at this point. Once you take down mid tower, their vision shrinks to this, right? Once you take down bot tower, their vision shrinks to this, right? Slowly but surely, you start working in your wards, right? You get your pinks down, you start warding their jungle, you start warding their lanes, and you start suffocating. And you make sure that they never cross this line without getting picked off because you can see them and they can't see you because they don't have vision, right? But you do. So this is the general concept. As you start taking down towers, you start suffocating them. That's the reason why you want to methodically take down towers one by one by one. And once you take the first tower, it becomes a lot easier, right? Like say they still have mid tower, then you go bot and you take their bot tower. That was not good. So this is what becomes of their vision line, right? So it's still actually not too bad for them because through this line they can still get a couple of wards in here. They can still probably ward over Baron to get here, right? And this is all done because they still have this top mid tower up. So this line gets completely cut off, right, when you take that mid tower, and all of this space is dead to them. So mid tower is a really kind of quintessential portion of the map, which is why it's more favorable to take that over bot tower first. But what you want to think about when you leave lane is not just, okay, I want to take mid tower. It's good that it's priority because that is priority number one. That's the first thing you should look at. But let's say that we have minion wave frozen here, okay? And your mid laner is here, their mid laner is here, and it's just a farm fest. There's not much you can do. Like if you go to mid lane, like how are you gonna try and really gank? It's not, you know, there's no good way to get in there. So what's next on the agenda? All right. Well, you see bot lanes here. That's an easy gank, right? You get one kill even, and you get that tower, right? Or you get one kill and you get a free dragon, right? So that's option 2. Okay. So what's the issue if this is occurring, right? It's actually a good situation in my opinion if you see both lanes like this because that means both your mid and your bot are winning too. So they've got their waves shoved up. What does this open up? Dragon. Yeah, man. Like they're hugging tower. They can't even see dragon. Even if they've got this warded, right? And they can see dragon. How are they going to get to dragon? They got to go like the long way, right? So if their jungler's even there, like it's going to create time and opportunity. So what you're going to want to do is you start heading in this direction. Sorry, I keep messing up the color. Start heading in that direction, okay? And start pinging. Ping, 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 dragon, right? Dragon, 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 dragon. As you're walking. So as you're walking, even if our jungler is over here doing blue, it's going to take the same amount of time for him to get there as you, okay? So what you want to do, and this is going to be solely through communication and then through bronze, none of the other players are going to understand this, but you will now, obviously, because I'm telling you, but what you're going to want to do to set up a free dragon every time in this exact scenario, and I'm giving you this single exact scenario because I just want to show you how to think through these kind of things, is we've got mid shoved, top shoved, and then down top tower. To get a free dragon, what we do is you tell your mid laner, shove the wave into tower, okay? Completely clear the wave, and then tell bot to do the same thing, completely clear the wave, so that they have to spend valuable seconds re-clearing the wave and defending their tower. And in that time, all of them can come help. So in the time it takes for them to walk here and start dragon and do it, all of you have reached here at the same time and are doing dragon. They've got a little bit of a delay because they got to take care of these minions. And if they don't, they're just going to let their tower get free damage. And then they all have to collapse and help out. And by that time, hopefully either dragon's dead or that they're just going to be like, just let him have it for free. Does that make sense?
Right.
And you see how free that setup was?
Mm-hmm.
So even having one player on a team thinking like this, like, and hopefully it's going to be you going forward, will raise the awareness and like the team like synergy of everyone around you. It's really hard to be toxic or like, you know, for people to be not on board when you see situations that are so easy like this and so straightforward like this. You know what I mean? Like if you just tell people free dragon, I'm coming bot, I'm going ping dragon, tell your jungler ping dragon, let's get a free dragon here because everyone's shoved up. They're not in position to defend it. This is a free dragon. Okay? So that's like your thought process for when you're ahead like this and you've taken down tower. Where's my next opportunity? Is it mid tower? No. Is it top tower? No. Is it dragon? No. And 90% of the time, it will be one of those three. Let's call it 95%. There's almost never a situation where one of those three objectives is not available. Right?
Right.
And in that off chance that it isn't available, Rift Herald. Done. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They can't defend all of those objectives at one time because they're already behind. So this is your game plan. And then slowly and methodically, you're going to apply this mindset and this logical if-then situation to the rest of the game from here on out. And it just becomes literally a logic fest of you just sitting there thinking, okay, we just did dragon. What's next? How can we all group now and just shove S5 from dragon, just everyone go mid, and then just curb stomp mid? Because we've got 5, and they don't know that you're going to be going mid together, so it's going to take a second for this top laner to come help if he even looks at his mini-map, right? So, again, you can just snowball everything and just start pinging stuff. And I don't know if you ping a lot. What took me, let me just tell you, what took me from low gold, I stalled out when I got from like I went from gold 5 to gold 3. I started hovering for like a week at gold 3. And what I realized I was doing wrong was in game I knew what I was doing. Like I knew we all needed to rotate mid, but no one else did. In gold, like nobody knows any of the stuff that I'm talking about here. Nobody thinks like this. But the way I won games was I was quarterbacking. I was like ping. Be that annoying person who pings the shit out of things, but then also explains kind of why if anyone's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Just be like, look, you know, it's free. Just type it's free in chat and then ping it. And usually people will understand it and join you. And that's what I understood. Once I started being like a more communicating player and pinging objectives, I went from gold 3 to plat 4 in like 2 weeks. So just upping your communication level, just going, just doing as best you can to help the team, you're going to get really far. And that's what my point for you is it's a very simple process of just once you get the first tower, then you can start to think about the other towers and slowly, beat the enemy team. Does that all make sense? Do you have any questions?
No, not right now.
Are there any like situations that come up in your games that you have confusion about, like mid to late game, like say all the outer towers are down and like the mid tier 2 towers down, like do you have any like issues with closing out?
I have one question about, as far as Baron goes.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that Baron for an inhib is equal?
That's like a really situational question. Like, obviously, it depends on a lot of factors. All things being equal, no. In my opinion, no. Because if, let me rephrase that. Because at bronze level, it's like it doesn't really matter. But like at your higher elo games, it absolutely is not worth, because all they have to do with the Baron buff is shove the inhib wave. So like say you guys took our inhib, but we got Baron, all we'd have to do is group as 5 and then shove the Baron minions to mid, right? And to buy us some time before it got to our towers. And then we can just group as 5 and start knocking towers down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and we've got Baron buff, and you've just got one, you know, you guys can't group in the mid and try and just shove and win the game because we've got Baron buff, and we're going to do it faster. Even though you've got one super minion, that's not going to be enough to mitigate 5 players having a Baron buff, right? So Baron's stronger than one single inhib, in my opinion. And it also depends, like, how late in the game is it? If it's at 20 minutes, then it becomes, Baron becomes less strong. If it's at 40 minutes, Baron becomes huge, because if you get 1 kill on the opposing team while you're shoving, the game is over, right? Because your death timer is like 50 seconds. And they've got a 4-on-5 against the Baron buff. So even if you guys have got that single super minion slowly shoving into the tower, it doesn't matter, the game's over. You know? So don't overplay Baron. I see a lot of lower elo players do this. Don't think that Baron's like this end-all be-all thing. A lot of people throw games because of Baron. Never try and sneak Baron ever. Sneaking Baron is like one of the easiest ways to throw a game. If Baron is free completely, you just had a team fight at 30 minutes and you killed 3 of their players and you've got 5 alive, free Baron. That's like your green light to Baron, right?
Right.
If you've got a team fight and you've killed 1 of them, Baron is not free whatsoever, right? You need to kill at least 3 of their players to be able to make Baron free. If you kill 2 of their players, you hide in this brush, right? You clear the vision,
Right.
you hide in that brush, pretend to do Baron, they'll send their 3 players in, you pick them off, kill them, and then do Baron, right? Or you kill them all and then win the game. So these are, by the way, all coming from advantageous points of view, where like if you're behind and just trying to like sneak a Baron real quick, that'll just end the game for you, because they can send like 2 players in to kill your entire team, because it's going to take you like half HP just to take Baron down, and they can just send in like Darius and LeBlanc and just kill your entire team, right?
Right.
So again, just try not to throw games. Make the logical decision, and I'm telling you, like, just like getting better at this game in general isn't about playing 50 games a day. When you're in bronze, it's about trying to learn these concepts and just applying your general basics until you understand, like, in and out how the game should flow, how the game should go, and you're winning games. Like, until you can get to out of silver, don't try any fancy moves. You know what I mean? Like, don't try any fancy, like, I'm going to ward this brush and let's all stand here and wait for their team to pass one of these places. Like, don't try and cheese kills like that. Like, just play your normal standard game until you've got players that you can trust and that know what they're doing too. Okay?
Right.
All right, man. Well, that's all. You know, that's all I really wanted to cover in this first kind of lesson. If you like really want to get, like, my suggestion right now from here forward for the next couple weeks would be to just play those champs we talked about, okay, and apply these concepts and everything we've talked about. And I'll post this video to YouTube right after we're done. Apply everything we've talked about, and then if you want to do another session and come back with questions that you have, like, write down all the questions you have. And if you want to do another lesson, I can start going into more detail, like kind of micro concepts about how to win your lane every single time, how wave management works, how to push and pull waves in every single lane, which are very important concepts as well. And just kind of everything we didn't really talk about today. I just wanted to keep it really high level for you, because I don't think you really need the specifics just yet.
All right.
All right, man. Well, if you have any other questions, just go ahead and message me on Skype, all right?
All right.
And I'll post this on YouTube, and then I'll shoot you the link on YouTube on Skype, all right?
Okay.
All right, man.
All right.
Well, thanks a lot.